I would very strongly think that beyond technology, students should try to inculcate a more broader understanding. See, the challenges that our country is facing right now, those are not tech problems anymore.
एक हाई पेइंग जॉब छोड़ना एंड देन अगेन गोइंग बैक इनटू एकेडमिया.
That more than academia, see, I come from a very middle class family. Okay, my dad has worked in the government. Making that move was difficult. In India, we have a very technical, rational mindset, very dominated by engineering. But there's a lot of design that also needs to develop with engineering. So both have to go together, and design is not color and paint. so I personally believe that a lot of human-centered design, human factors engineering is required in the defense. Unfortunately, I don't think that we are doing enough of it. The requirements that they have given is properly translated into the actual artifact. So all these aspects are looked at by human factors. So I study how systems work, and I also study how systems fail, right? And basically the human contribution to it.
हेलो एवरीवन, वेलकम बैक टू आवर शो. एंड आज हमारे साथ है प्रोफेसर विवेक कांत. सो ही इज़ अ प्रोफेसर इन IIT कानपुर इन डिपार्टमेंट ऑफ डिज़ाइन. सर बहुत बहुत स्वागत है. तो सर फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल आप थोड़ा सा अपने बारे में इंट्रोडक्शन दे दीजिए.
First, thank you for having me here. It's a great pleasure to be on your show. And so my name is Vivek Kant. I work as an associate professor of design at the Department of Design in IIT Kanpur. And before this, I was an assistant professor in design in IDC School of Design at IIT Bombay. And so I've got a very mixed background. My undergrad is in engineering, electrical engineering, after which I studied cognitive science for my first master's, and I worked in the industry, software industry, in a R&D firm, the R&D sector of a major firm, a software firm. And after that, I decided that I wanted to study cognition, the basis behind design. So I was involved in a lot of interface design during my work over there that helped me to really move towards an understanding of why do you require cognitive science as a basis for design. So I studied cognitive science for my first master's. Then I did a second master's in psychology, in post-cognitivist approaches, where I studied things beyond the traditional view of cognitive science. And after that, I did a PhD in systems design engineering, where I merged all these various ideas together. And the main focus in my PhD was on requirements analysis and interface design aspects. So I work in complex systems, and complex systems would be in something like defense, oil and gas, nuclear, that kind of stuff. And my area of study is first, what is the role of the human in the functioning of the complex system, and the second, how do you design to support the functioning of the system and human performance. So I look at areas such as HMI design. So think of things like the train operator, and the train is moving, how will the interface be like? Or think of a control room, power plant, or even think of wargaming scenarios where a lot of people from defense are working and thinking about an issue, or cockpits of aircrafts. All of that is information design, right? So the key challenge is, how do you support the human to make quick and effective decisions? And I basically work in, again, complex systems, both mission critical, which is defense, and safety critical, which is nuclear, oil and gas, so those related areas. So that was my core area of expertise in my PhD. Then I did a postdoc in socio-technical systems, where I was involved. I did it from Singapore. I was involved in studying sociology as well as engineering. So things such as organizational basis of decision making, organizational aspects of functioning of the system. So what happens when an accident takes place, or what happens if a system breaks down? How quickly can it come back up? So my area of expertise during my area of study during my postdoc was in socio-technical resilience. How can you design system and human contribution to that, so that your overall system functions in a manner so that it can quickly bounce back up, even if there is a breakdown or an accident or a disaster. So that's what I did, and then I came back to India and joined IIT Bombay in the Department of Design. After that, I am here in Kanpur.
So starting from the beginning, your journey is totally unconventional. So you are an electrical engineer, right?
Yes, yes.
So then you have done job in software. So how that transition happened, like from software engineer to cognitive science?
Yes, so so I was interested in computers right from my how to say, so high school, class 12th. Really interested in programming and other kinds of things. So I joined engineering. I had an inclination towards engineering, but I was always interested in the software side. So so this is the year 2000 to 2004. I did my engineering, so I'm really old. Ancient, right? So that time the IT boom was really there, and since I was very much interested in all these areas, so I liked a lot of work which involved programming, even things such as digital programming for microprocessors. Those were my favorite areas, and then I transitioned to the software industry, where I was very lucky to work on the interface aspects, because so one day I went and told my work supervisor that, the interface is not looking good, we can put this color over there and that color over there. And he said, oh, you want to work in this area, take this up. That's how it all started. So I was interested in color and paint at that time. That was my thinking about design, which has changed now in the course of these around 20 years. But it was that whole 2 years, 2004 to around 2006, was a major transition period where I really started to read a lot. And the good thing was that the place where I worked, they had a very good library. So I used to read a lot. At that time, I had a very fast internet connection, which you would have now, because I was in the software sector. So I could, at that time, the interesting thing was that a lot of these uh, professors overseas used to put up their lectures online or even course material online. So I could read a lot, and that's how I realized that cognition is the basis if you want to develop design. So it doesn't mean that you can apply cognition. It's not that. But to have a strong understanding, you need to understand human psychology, specifically for design and the kind of work I do for information design. So that's how I shifted. That was the major transition period.
Still, sir, but एक high paying job छोड़ना and then again going back into academia.
That more than academia, see, I come from a very middle class family. Okay, my dad has worked in the government. Making that move was difficult. I came to Allahabad, gave my interview over here, and went back. So that's where I studied cognitive science, the University of Allahabad. And I was very lucky to have very good people. So University of Allahabad had the Center for Excellence in so one was cognitive science, as well as the psychology department was very, very strong. A lot of major luminaries from India who are known in the field of psychology are from there. Also, a lot of guest lectures used to come, so it was a very enlightening experience for me. A lot of work in understanding the basis of psychology. So I studied cognitive science over here. I also got exposed to a lot of Indian approaches to psychology, and cross cultural approaches that were very strongly followed. They have a very strong indigenous roots. So thinking about the mind from the viewpoint of what would it mean for people in our country. So that was a very good experience for me. So when I went overseas, I mean, I went with, it wasn't that I just got what do you call, exposed to psychology overseas, but I had a very good breadth which I got in Allahabad over here. Then when I went for my second masters in post cognitivist approaches, so at least I had a knowledge, or I had some roots to at least try and understand and grasp at what is going on in post-cognitivist approaches. So that move towards psychology was also a very premeditated step, and it was. I mean, it's difficult. See, now today I can talk about it because everything fits in. That time, I thought things would fit in.
सर एग्जैक्टली मतलब आप इतनी सारी डिग्रीज कर रहे थे तो आपको कभी लगा था मतलब कि कहाँ पे एंड अप होगा मतलब
कि एंड अप एक जब मैं सेकेंड फर्स्ट मास्टर्स कर रहा था कॉग्निटिव साइंस में, तो मैंने एक एरिया के बारे में पढ़ना शुरू किया था. उसका नाम है ह्यूमन फैक्टर्स इंजीनियरिंग. ह्यूमन फैक्टर्स इंजीनियरिंग इज़ अ पार्ट ऑफ इंडस्ट्रियल एंड सिस्टम्स इंजीनियरिंग, and it's widely spread off in US, Canada, UK, right? A lot of Japanese universities have that, Nordic universities, European universities have that, Australian universities have that. Unfortunately, in India, we haven't developed human factors at an undergraduate level. So there are programs in ergonomics in mechanical engineering departments and industrial engineering departments. Unfortunately, we don't have full-fledged programs, right? So human factors is a subject where you study human capabilities and limitations and design for that, right? So an example is, I'm sitting over here, right? If the chair height, see, my foot is my sole is resting on the ground. If the chair height was higher, my feet would not have touched the ground, right? So what would have happened is, over a period of time, I would start feeling discomfort, right? So the physical and physiological aspect is taken care of by the branch of human factors known as physical human factors, also known as ergonomics in India. Ergonomics is well spread. Okay, a very good school has been University of Calcutta, and different colleges in West Bengal have developed physical and physiological ergonomics very broadly, and a lot of good people in this area have come out from that region. Unfortunately, they never went beyond physical physiological human factors. See, as we are rapidly industrializing, right, computers are coming in. What we've done in India is that we've jumped the computer revolution and we've gone directly into mobiles. So now every Indian is having a mobile, and because of technology becoming cheaper, a lot of information design is required for that. How would you design for different kinds of people, right? See, we've grown up with this desktop metaphor, right? When you study computers, you have this desktop and there are things on the desktop, right? Now you have to use the computer, or you have to design a computer that would be used in an oil rig, right? Think about it. So how would you think about design? Do I just take the computer and put it over there? Or do I think about a different metaphor for design that is more suited to the operators on the oil rig, right? So these are basic challenges. And for this, we require human factors engineering, we require human-centered design, and we require a lot of systems engineering. In India, what I'm finding is that human factors is limited to only physical, physiological. Overseas, you'll find human factors engineering having three areas to it. One is physical, physiological, which is there. The second is cognitive, right? And the third is organizational. So when you are thinking about the entire sector, right? So what is happening is that even though the operator is working in the power plant, the major focus is that person is also getting affected by rules and regulations, teamwork, organizational policies, even regulatory policies of the sector, government policies, right? So all of that acts on the person, while the person is not all the time thinking that, okay, this policy is acting on me. The person doesn't think like that. But the design should be such that the operation is supporting all these various aspects. So that is why we require an understanding of socio-technical systems, so not just technology. So one of the biggest challenges in India currently is that we have a lot of good engineers, lot of good technological development coming in, design coming in. What we are lacking is human-centered design, and we are lacking an understanding of the social dimension which supports design and technology, right? So that I think is very important.
सर जैसा कि अभी आपने बताया कि दैट इंडिया में ह्यूमन फैक्टर्स इन डिज़ाइन इतना डेवलप्ड नहीं है एंड बिफोर डूइंग योर कोर्स आई डिडंट हैड एनी आइडिया अबाउट डिज़ाइन तो फॉर मी डिज़ाइन वाज लाइक कि अराउंड प्रोडक्ट्स की कुछ प्रोडक्ट डिज़ाइन करवाएंगे या फिर कुछ आर्ट एंड क्राफ्ट का सो टेल अस अबाउट द डिज़ाइन इन इंडिया अबाउट the courses and IIT Kanpur, design in IIT Kanpur and in IIT Bombay also.
So, okay, I'll tell you how I started off thinking about design. So, when I was in my undergrad, I used to think design was color and paint. That is 20 years back.
Sir, after 20 years, I think.
After 20. Right. So that's the typical viewpoint, right? That if you can apply this color, you can apply this paint, it looks good. But there's a very deeper dimension to design. Okay. So all the things around you are constructed, right? They are constructed over a period of time. The designs have evolved, so to speak. But now with high-tech products coming in, you don't have that much time to continuously evolve. And also places like sectors like nuclear, oil and gas, we cannot wait for something to break down, right, and then design based on the learning from that. So that is not possible. So one of the biggest challenges of design is to think about technology in a manner that you go ahead and develop new methodologies, new ways of working, new ways of thinking which support the human in different kinds of contexts. Now, traditional view of design which has come in, for example, one has been the applied arts, crafts viewpoint. So that exists, that is also designed, part of it is also designed. Then different aspects. So for example, when you look at different kinds of communication design, okay, so things such as design for different fonts, design for different what do you call communication posters, design for messages. For example, how would you persuade people to wash their hands, right, before eating? Even today you'd find many people not washing their hands, right? How would you design advertisements? How would you design what do you call whole sequences, films, right? So a lot of design, communication design is there. A lot of design for supporting human health is there, right? Healthcare design. So a lot of design for with technology. So a lot of gizmos and gadgets that you see, interaction design, right? So all of this is design. Design has a breadth to it, right? Just like there's engineering, you have mechanical, electrical, so on and so forth. Similarly, if you have a whole university of design, you'll have things such as interaction design, communication design, media, right? So all of this fits in. The work that I do personally fits in with interaction design as well as with human factors. So that is also there. So design for humans in complex system. So that is where I come in. But design as a field is very broad. Okay, and design is so I'll try to disambiguate between these two understanding of design. So there's engineering design, where for example, if you are a mechanical engineer, you've designed a gear, right, a gear system, and that is also design, but that's engineering design, right? You are not, so a human may not be involved in that process. However, when a human is involved in the process, when you're designing for the human, that fits in the broad area of human-centered design. So typically in design schools, we cater to human-centered design more. IIT Kanpur is a very interesting setup because we are also looking at engineering design. Part of it is engineering design or product engineering design is also there, and we are looking at human centered design also over here. So it's a new department we are starting up. I'm very happy to be here, and a lot of good people over here, very supportive in looking at a broad understanding of design. I think that is kind of missing in our I would say in India we have a very technical rational mindset, very dominated by engineering, but there's a lot of design that also needs to develop with engineering. So both have to go together, and design is not color and paint. So
यस सर, इसकी काफ़ी जो प्रैक्टिकल इम्प्लीकेशंस है, जैसे कि आप बता रहे थे कि आप यू आर वर्किंग ऑन अ डिफेंस
yes.
डिफेंस पार्ट, तो उसके बारे में थोड़ा सा बताइए, एंड देन अदर प्रैक्टिकल इम्प्लीकेशंस ऑल्सो, जैसे कि आप ट्रेन एक्सीडेंट्स बता रहे थे या फिर
So we can, so design. I'll talk a little bit about examples in defense. So one of the things which so I moved to IIT Kanpur. Part of the reason was that because of defense and defense corridor coming over here. So I personally believe that a lot of human-centered design, human factors engineering is required in the defense. Unfortunately, I don't think that we are doing enough of it. We need to do more of it. So just recently I completed a paper with CII IIT Kanpur policy paper on human centered design in the defense sector. So this is the first policy paper written in India which looks at the entire sector, right? So how can you intervene? So design is not only products and things, right? So let's say I have to design the cockpit of an aircraft, right? Now this cockpit of the aircraft is where you actually do the design, how things will be looking at. The step before that is what should go into there in the first place, right? The what question is the requirements question, and oftentimes you are asking the requirements question at the beginning, because this is a very complex system. There's not one single person you're designing for. There are developers, there are the end users, there is the whole organizational chain of command in the defense, and that artifact, whatever you're designing in the defense, should fit in for the mindset of the people. It should fit in with the military doctrine. Okay, when you design mobile phones, the same set of challenges are not there. So in defense, the challenge is so very complicated that you have to support the end user. But what is very interesting is, because the people working in that sector, the soldiers, are trained in such a manner that if they have a gun they will fight, if they don't have a gun then also they'll fight. So even if you've not designed things properly, still they cover up with their expertise and with their strength, right? So if we want to make defense sector more operationally effective, can we bring in proper design which supports their in operation? Also, when you are designing not only for operation, you're also thinking about things like reliability, availability, maintainability, safety. These are things you're looking at, right? So if I design things properly over here, my maintenance becomes easier later. You see, when you are looking at design in the entire systems life cycle, if I put in more money over here into design, my maintenance cost reduces, right? See how design is fitting into the entire systems engineering life cycle. Also, what is happening is, if you bring in design right at the very inception, especially in the requirements analysis phase, right? See, most times what happens is, the people who are giving insights, they are well seasoned experts in this area, right? They've done a lot of work, they have spent a lot of time in the defense sector. Based on the sign, they give the requirements. Now from the requirements, right, how do I know that all of my requirements is complete, right? How do I know that the requirements that they have given is properly translated into the actual artifact? So all these aspects are looked at by human factors, human centered design and human systems integration. So basically, human systems integration is a branch of systems engineering which says how is the human fitting into the entire systems life cycle at different phases. So even though the guy who's flying the aircraft is different from the guy who's given the requirements, we have to ensure that in all the phases all these people are supported. That is the key crux of human centered design in the entire defense sector. Because right from your commissioning to decommissioning, if we are supporting all the stakeholders from the human centric viewpoint, right, our task becomes easier. So one area that we study in human factors is human function allocation, right? So when you are designing a new system, you are how do you decide what goes into the machine and what goes into the human, right? This is a basic challenge. When you are think either, so how people work is they have either flown different aircraft so they know some idea about it. When you want to design a new aircraft, right, how are you thinking about it? So one is my technological constraints, engineers have to be involved, human factors experts and human centered designers have to be involved also, right? So right at the beginning when you're thinking about things, later once the technology is completed, you won't have to rework the technology. See, it saves a lot of time, money, right? So design plays a very crucial role. So these aspects of design go beyond simply products. You are thinking about design in terms of systems strategies, you are thinking about design in terms of military doctrine, you are thinking about design in terms of how do you support the human and humans decision making at a very abstract level, right? So these aspects are there in basically human centered design in defense. The other aspect I wanted to talk about is slightly beyond design, which looks at more human factors engineering per se. One aspect is so I study how systems work and I also study how systems fail, right? And basically the human contribution to it. So now I've talked a little bit about how systems work. I'll talk something about how systems fail. uh, in India, unfortunately, we have a lot of accidents, right? And there are accidents which are preventable, accidents which you don't even recognize is kind of a it's spreading. It's like an epidemic, which is a silent epidemic. It's to use the term by the environmentalist Rob Nixon, there's a slow violence going on, right? Violence which is not apparent, violent violence whose effects you'll see in decades. An example is Vizag gas tragedy, right? So it has happened, right? People are suffering, a lot of people are doing something for that, but the challenge is how can we prevent it, right? So it's not only disaster management but disaster prevention also, right? And this is not just an isolated case. Gas tragedy, railway accidents, uh, all of these, right, are slowly is there, people are dying, right?
So you're saying these are preventable?
Yes, they are preventable through better design, through better operations. And I'm not saying that people are not doing the jobs, okay, please don't understand it in that manner. People are making the effort, the operators who are there in this sector, the decision makers in this sector. What I very strongly believe is that our academic sector in India is facing this knowledge gap, an epistemological gap, which is basically there's lack of human factors understanding in these complex systems. See, when I was studying overseas, right, this mentality was there that India is somehow a country which is a low medium income country and a lot of people are very poor, right? That is there, okay. We have a sizable population, right? But we also have an active nuclear program, defense program, space program, railway program, right? Oil and gas. And these are very technologically sophisticated systems. So the engineering aspect is very strong in this. and how can we support the human aspect of it. See, what happens is, typically how we design is, we think that we figure out the technology and then we bring in the human operator, right, or the human user. A different way of thinking about it is, how can we take the technology and the human together, right at the design phase, and start asking, what is the human good at? So the basic human function allocation, this is the human function allocation, right? What is the human good at? What is the technology good at? How can we ensure that the human is a part of the overall technological system? At the same time, the technological system serves as the human environment. See the duality in this kind of an thinking. So this duality, if we support this duality in the country, and I would say that this is the lacuna in our academic sector. We have to set up programs and institutes of technologies, Indian Institute of Technologies, all of them. See, currently we don't have a sizable people who can even go ahead and tell the engineers that, okay, this is important, right? When you see human factors in different countries, for example in the US, where it is a very strong area, it is so strong that you have 4 years undergrad in human factors, right? In UK, right, you have an undergrad in ergonomics, 4 years undergrad, you just study ergonomics, right? So they have a sizable population. They can go and tell the engineers that, look, this is important, this sector is important, this, if you think in this manner, these are the activities, if you do, you can ensure or try to even comprehend that there are ways in which we can prevent those disasters. So one example is the Elphinstone Stone railway station tragedy, which happened in 2017. We did an accident investigation on it after it. Okay. Now, the interesting thing is that we couldn't find reports, right? Finding reports was very difficult. So then we had to collate a lot of information from newspapers which had reported, and over a period of time we tried to understand how the accident had developed, right? See, accidents are very interesting. They are not simply acts of God. They don't just happen suddenly. What happens suddenly has a gestation period, right? And slowly things are coming together and developing. Over a period of time, what happens is that suddenly there's a boom. Now if this place, the accident wouldn't have happened, then some other place would have gotten affected. That's what makes complex systems very interesting. Complex systems are very different from your simple systems, simple technological systems. Complex systems involve a lot of people also. So how do people in certain places work with different processes, operations, activities, and how all of it come together to then go ahead and do things, right? Now there can be multiple cases of failure. It's not always blaming the human. There can be technological failures also, which leads to a cascading effect. We look at those failures. A lot of people try to model those failures. That area of study is reliability engineering. How can you make systems reliable? My area is human factors in systems, right? So what is the human contribution to it? How can we ensure that at least the human component is supported? Unfortunately, that part, I believe very strongly, is missing in the academic sector in the country. If we push that forward, I think we'll be in a much better what do you call standpoint to at least try to prevent. There are many deaths happening. And another example I'll give you. When I came back to India, I started looking at accident data. Very difficult to find, right? And accident data, one is the government has statistics on that, but I wanted to go beyond just numbers. I wanted to understand how is it that what certain kinds of accidents come through. So what I'm finding is, I looked at from the year 2014 to 2018, 5 years. I looked at newspaper articles from page number 2 to page number 10, 9 or 10. Okay, and in all these newspapers there are these small deaths that are happening, things like that will appear in a paragraph or something, things like there's an open manhole, a person falls into it, dies. In the slums, brick wall falls on a person, the person dies, right? In a construction site, this person dies. Only 2 3 lines, one paragraph will come. Then a gas cylinder bursts in a very dense environment, people die, right? It does not make national news, but this is happening, right? And it is not simply that you can use things properly, and if you did not use properly it's a violation. That's not the case. I very strongly believe that these deaths, okay, we have to consolidate it in a consolidated manner, think about it in a totality. Once we start doing that, then we can at least try to save a lot of people. That is the whole idea behind pushing for these and pointing this out, that there is really, I think, this knowledge gap, and university should be much more open to these idea of setting up human factors programs in the country. It's very important, I think.
सर ओके सो व्हाट डू यू थिंक अभी कितना टाइम लगेगा इंडिया में डिज़ाइन प्रॉपर डेवलप होने में, ह्यूमन फैक्टर्स इन डिज़ाइन?
Human factors in design, if someone sets it up in a one year or two, right? So what I've done, I'll tell you. After coming back, so last 2 3 years I worked with some colleagues overseas, and what I did was I created a human factors syllabus which is available online, so you can search for it. And what we've done is, if you want to open a master's program, these are the courses, these are the things you got to teach, right? So these kinds of things I'm doing, but I believe it will take time. But if especially the IITs, they get interested in it and they set up undergraduate programs, I think this is the next wave. So we are technologically, we are well developed. I think this dimension, if we develop in the next, maybe with the coming in of the NEP, I think these kinds of programs can really get supported.
सिंस सर यू आर इन IITK एंड अभी आपने जो लास्ट सेमेस्टर जो कोर्स लिया था तो उसमें अंडर ग्रेड्स भी थे, तो मैं भी था तो सिंस वी डिडंट हैड एनी आइडिया अबाउट डिज़ाइन, तो हाउ वाज योर एक्सपीरियंस टीचिंग अस फ्रॉम द स्क्रैच?
Yeah, that was see, in IIT Bombay I have taught mainly BTech students, not BTech students, not that much. Here it has been bit of an uphill ride, but the good thing was that you know how I tell people right at the very beginning, this will be a tough course, don't join it. So at least you all stayed behind, so I mean you all were ready for it. So I think it was a joint commitment between me as well as you guys, so it was a good experience. So all the people who were there in the course really put in an effort. And see, the whole idea behind this course was that to show you that human factors in design can have a real big breadth, right? So some examples you all did was on anthropometry, right? Things like reach, things like understanding how your distance between the top of your this and this one, that differs amongst people, right? Small differences, right, which you would not recognize, but as a designer, when you're designing it, you have to factor these in, right? So it was a very good experience overall. The students were very motivated. I think motivation really puts you forward in life, and I think, yeah, that's good.
ओके सर, सो सिंस आपकी इतनी लंबी जर्नी रही है, 20 साल आपने दिए इसमें, सो अकॉर्डिंग टू यू वो शुड परस्यू डिज़ाइन एज अ करियर, और वो शुड परस्यू डिज़ाइन?
You should pursue design if you are really inclined towards it. See, there's a lot of understanding of design in terms of how to say, lot of pyrotechnics, bubble and froth, you know, is nice looking things, aesthetic looking things. But beyond that, also design answers a very fundamental need. Okay, I would say that students in IIT Kanpur, the BTechs, should at least take one course in design. They'll at least get some breadth, that will be very helpful. Plus also, if you read a lot about design, and that is growing in design India, design in India is growing. Engineers should get some understanding of human factors engineering, some understanding of human centered design. I mean, I think engineers will gain a lot, especially also in IIT Kanpur. The technological culture is very, very strong. So things like, if you study electrical engineering, let's say, and you are thinking about the control room of a power plant, right? Electrical power plant. Someone actually designs that, right? It just doesn't happen on its own. So if you are in your third year or fourth year and you take a course on HMI, at least now you'll know that, okay, I figured out the technology part. This is the human contribution to that technology, information design for that.
ओके, तो आईआईटी में वी कैन फिल दैट गैप जो टेक एंड
Absolutely. I really strongly feel so. So that's one of the reasons I moved to IIT Kanpur.
ओके. तो सर, ऑन द एंडिंग नोट, I would love if you can share some of the experiences and advices for our audience.
Okay. I'm not the best person to give advice. The only thing I would say is that, at least for students, students work hard a lot, right? I would very strongly think that beyond technology, students should try to inculcate a more broader understanding. See, the challenges that our country is facing right now, those are not tech problems anymore. Initially, in the past decades, what we are finding is that we had this view that we have to become technologically adept, and which we have been, or steadily over a period of time. Our infrastructure is improving. So what we now want to understand is that each problem has to be understood from multiple perspectives, and moving beyond a single perspective, moving beyond your initial training, becomes very, very difficult for people. That, I think, if students over a period of time force themselves to move beyond what they've learned, I think that is one of the demarcators, how you can really start thinking more at the level of systems rather than individuals. So that, I think, that's my last advice I would give, that really, if they want to move forward.
Okay, sir, thank you so much for coming and sharing your learnings and insights. Thank you so much.
Thank you.